Reacting to women complaining about online dating. I mean, it can't be that hard, can it? Well, in their case, nothing is.
I'm in a bad mood because for some reason I thought it would be a good idea to re-download Hinge. How can anyone, does anyone here work for Hinge? And can you tell me how they work out you're most compatible? I am by no means saying I'm a 10 out of 10. I'm not saying like I'm catch of the day. But my most compatibles look like swamp monsters.
Damn.
Wow. I mean, that's not nice to begin with, is it? The potentials you have, you think they look like swamp monsters, and they possibly do. Now, the apps aren't great for giving you what you want, but I mean, it doesn't make money that way. But my God, swamp monsters. The app may think that's what you deserve. Swamp monsters.
And again, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but my most compatible, I know for me, would definitely at least have like teeth.
Okay.
So what's going on with that? And then you scroll through the profiles and it's boys like, what do you want to do this year? I want to travel Asia. I want to travel here. I want to travel there. Go then. Bye. What are you doing here? Do you know what I mean?
So she's getting nothing but well-traveled, toothless men. Okay.
And then when they do, the ones that have already been and done all that, they've got the same photo of them sitting there like with a sedated tiger. Like, that's not cool. That's not cool. I actually hate you for that.
Wow.
And then when they do message, it's either just nice tats or it's just heart eye.
At least he said tats. You know, at least he said tats. He could have said nice something else. But, you know, I don't think everyone is that crude. So, you know, he was being nice. He could have said something else.
Emojis. What do you want me to say to that? Or I always get, oh, I like your tattoos. Are there any hidden ones that I can't see? What do you want me to reply to that? Yeah.
A picture?
Actually, I've got a massive, like, black and white line on my vagina. What do you want me to say to that?
Well, honestly, if you did say that, I mean, you don't say that to a man, do you? His next question is going to be like, well, can I see it? You know? So I get your point. But I mean, you are getting attention, aren't you?
I think maybe from how infuriated I'm getting, I'm maybe not ready to go back on the apps or speak to a man ever again.
Hey, come on, really? You might meet a nice toothless man that wants to see pictures of that tattooed wap, and he may want to see your tits as well. Sorry, I meant tats. Tats.
So I'm scrolling last night. I scrolled so far left that Bumble told me that's it. We've shown you everybody. There are no more options left for you.
So you outscrolled a dating app. You outscrolled an app designed for meeting people. It's like outscrolling TikTok. I mean, that seems impossible. But you, woman, you found a way to outscroll a dating app. It's interesting. Is it the app's problem or yours? I mean, a lot of people are single because they are too picky nowadays. Having standards can keep you single as well.
Manless.
Yeah. So your standards are probably too high, or you think you're too good for all the toothless men on the app. Okay, I guess she thinks she's too good.
What I've learned from online dating is if you go on a date with a guy and he does not rearrange or organise a second date within the 24 hours, sack it off. Unfortunately, I've spent so much time with guys who have gone on the first date and they haven't sealed a second date within the 24 hours. And you know what? It's just a waste of time. It's an ego thing, or else they're just bored and waiting for like something better to come along.
Something better to come along. I mean, you've had quite a lot of, you know, first dates. So you're good at first dates. So, I mean, you can actually get some first dates, but I mean, they're not going anywhere, are they? It's just still you complaining on the internet that the dating apps are crap. But you are good at first dates. I mean, that could be your talent. You could be a good first dater, but then after that, I mean, yeah.
So now I just get a sniff of it. If they don't ask me within 24 hours, gonzo, God bless. We have zero time in 2025 for these losers.
I mean, do you think it could be too demanding? I mean, your demands could be too high, couldn't they? That's possibly why, you know, men only date you once and then never want to see you again. Just saying.
There is a collective disappointment in the male species currently.
Wow.
Grandmothers are divorcing grandfathers because they would rather live the rest of their life alone than with that guy.
She probably wants to collect her pension alone, buy herself a granny yacht.
Never before have I heard or witnessed this level of disappointment and this level of conscious awareness in the feminine. And it has nothing to do with their raising. It has everything to do with their ego. And their ego is telling you or ego tells you that you're perfect. You don't need to feel those feelings to heal, that you're just great the way that you are, because the ego is your bodyguard. And whenever you feel those feelings of the unmanaged trauma, it's a lot for the ego. It's a lot for the human body. The masculine has a much bigger ego. This is why their arousal energy starts outside of their body, essentially.
I mean, men's body parts are outside their body. So, I mean, that would actually make sense. But okay, I get what she's saying. The male ego is causing a lot of problems in society and obviously with men because obviously of male ego. But I mean, the best place to see a woman's ego is on dating apps, aren't they? A lot of women have a benefit on dating apps that a lot of men don't have. A lot of women can scroll to infinity until they have no one else to scroll to. Whereas a lot of men would just swipe on damn near anybody at some point because trying to get a match for a man is far more difficult than to get a match for a woman. So whereas a lot of men are egotistical, yeah, in terms of dating apps, they seem to reveal a woman's ego like nothing else. But for all the badness of dating apps, it doesn't stop women going back to them. No, because dating apps still provide something. It's still a hit. It's still attention. It's still validation. Even if she doesn't want the man, it doesn't matter. It's still a woman being validated, her ego being stroked by all the attention from all these random men. So I mean, everyone's egotistical to a degree, aren't they?
In their second head, that's where the quote originated, was thinking with your second head. That's because males start down here in their penis. So I've begun to ask myself, what is the difference? What is going on right now that is creating this huge collective disappointment? And it has nothing to do with the males. They're doing the same thing they've always done. They've always been this way. But the feminine are waking up. We are recognizing that we have standards and they're not being met, and we're starting to hold people accountable for those standards.
Okay, so men haven't changed, but I mean, considering all these women are changing and advancing, it hasn't stopped women from getting into very weird and odd relationships and situationships and hookups. I mean, that hasn't changed. Dating apps are, the prime place for a lot of those weird modern interactions. And it will always be a small amount of women that change. The dating apps will always make money. Women will go back to them because for as much as they are advancing, they still need attention. They still need to be validated, made to feel better. And it's odd to think that going to a dating app is going to mean that you're going to find the type of man that's better than the ones you're meeting already. It's like, no, it's not a one-sided thing.
They're not being met, and we're starting to hold people accountable for those standards. Mamas are choosing to be single mothers because they don't want to mother another person, and the male species has become that.
But you're acting as if a lot of dudes want to be stepdads to single mothers as well.
I've had to ask myself, did we do this? Did the females do this? Did we enable men to become this incompetent?
Possibly.
This is not a male bashing post because the masculine have a huge purpose here. You have a major purpose here. But I'm bringing this to awareness because I work with women and I hear this consistently, that they'd rather be alone than to have a relationship with a man where it's more work. Because we're bringing really conscious children into the world right now. We're just not going to put up with the bullshit. And because the patriarchy has been dismantled, this is creating this situation. The dismantling of the patriarchy is creating a collective...
But a lot of men are doing the same thing. It's not just women, a lot of men are doing the same thing as well. Is it a collective dislike of each other or dating, or this modern dating pool? So I get what you're saying, but a lot of men are content being by themselves as well. It sort of feels pointless to support someone that makes you feel useless as a person.
A collective ego death in the masculine energy. And that's for all of us. We all have masculine and feminine energy. So those of us who are deciding to homestead and leaving CEOs or selling businesses so that we can stay home with our babies, this is us healing our masculine. The women are doing the work. We are stepping up to the plate. We're not dealing with any bullshit. Again, we love you. We love the masculine. We know that you have a huge purpose here. And we are also creating awareness that you're going through a massive ego death.
Now, I can't speak for all men, but a lot of men would agree with that. A lot of men would feel the same. It's no hate or malice. It's more understanding. And in certain cases, the more you understand something, the less you can actually love it. You realize, I can't love you. I can't love this. I can't love what I'm trying to build with you. Because I understand in the end, it's not going to result in me being appreciated. It would result in the efforts I do for you, what I put in for you, which would be for the sake of us. But in reality, it's more for the sake of you. So fully understand your point. But it does work both ways. It seems like for both men and women, there's a collective dislike of being used by useless people.
Massive ego death, and that you're going through a collective dark night of the soul. But respectfully, that's not our problem. We're not going to hold your hand because nobody held our hand while we went through our dark night of the soul alone so that we could reach this level of awareness and decide that we're not putting up with bullshit anymore. The masculine is beginning to show themselves. The veil has lifted, and it has lifted all over. Not just from the 3D programming, which also is the patriarchy. It has lifted so much that women are going, whoa, I've been in this horrible marriage for 50 years or whatever, and I'm not doing it anymore. I'm choosing me. If you're a male and if you've made it this far and you haven't taken this hugely personally, then I see you, we see you, and we know that you're going through a deep purging of the masculine energy and how you used to show up in the world. If you've listened this far, listen to this. Women were created to be leaders. We have deep awarenesses. We have deep intuition that leads you through the spiritual realm.
Okay, we understand, we get her point. However, that's not the case for all of them. And as a man, no, it isn't the case for all of them. As a man in dating, there's no guarantee you're going to meet a woman who is this highly spiritual woman you're talking about. No, a lot of men have met the opposite. A lot of men have met what they would call demons. So, I mean, there is a point to address where there's an obvious standard and quality of men that exist. There obviously are decent quality men out there, but a lot of quality men are getting overlooked for more reckless, toxic, chaotic men. So in that instance, it wouldn't matter how great women become. Their poor choices in men will still dictate what sort of life they're going to have. So in addressing men as well, you have to address women's desire for recklessness and chaos. I mean, we understand why, but I mean, if you continually make bad choices and decisions, the problem is you. I'm just saying.
Deep awarenesses. We have deep intuition that leads you through the spiritual realm, but you have to let us lead. You have to protect our physical space so that we continue to lead, and you have to do the man labor that helps us build what needs to be built so that we can create new earth. The women, the feminine, is the leader of new earth. We are equal in every way, but you have to begin to let us lead. This will tip the scales. We will balance out the feminine and the masculine, and we will be at zero in harmony, just as we intended it when we created this human experience.
I mean, it sounds nice, but how true is that? It does sound cute though.
Loneliness epidemic, male loneliness epidemic. Act normal. If a lot of you just behaved like civil individuals, didn't have a porn rotted mind, could hold a conversation, drink water, like, I don't know, went outside, like, you wouldn't be miserable. The misery is because you are miserable. Like, yeah, anyone would be miserable when they don't have friends, don't talk to people, sit inside their house all day online, being like, oh, my problems. Yeah, anyone would be miserable.
In terms of problems, I don't really hear that many men complain about problems so much. I mean, a lot of men do have problems, but in terms of problems, mostly I hear women on the internet complaining about problems. Like, I've seldom come across a video of men complaining about what you're talking about. Unless I'm probably just not seeing him. It's probably not the sort of content that I watch, so I wouldn't see it anyway. But what I find odd is there are a lot of women complaining about dating men who fit the exact same standard you're talking about. And maybe that's a problem. Maybe part of the problem is the sorts of men a lot of women are dating and assuming they're the ones that should suffer from this. And it's like, that's not happening.
Women don't just get to walk outside and find suitable partners. I mean, look at our option. And sure, yeah, women, it might be easier to find someone that will say yes immediately. But have you ever heard of a standard? No. And that's the problem. You don't have standards either for yourself. And that's embarrassing. Be a little picky. Be a little choosy. And don't be picky just because you can't get anything and now you're just mad and hating. Nothing is nastier and uglier and more sinister than a grown man, grown, over the age of 18, in a woman's post being like, you ugly like, are you not like ashamed, embarrassed? Because it's the world's biggest
I mean, that is disgusting. There's no need for that. But I mean, was she though? I mean, was she? Seriously.
turn off. Like, I physically feel sick, and I'm also laughing at you now. So, I don't know. The call-out's gonna come inside the house, love.
Single check. If you're single, heart this. Comment where you're from.
And there are so many of these. For all the lovely single women out there, I mean, why aren't they being scooped up? Someone isn't scooping, or the men that are scooping, they're being put back down. There's probably only a certain type of man that should be scooping. Interesting. Have a look at this.
Two friends install a dating app and try their luck. The man tries to set up the perfect profile. A nice front picture, a group picture to make it seem like he has friends, a picture in Paris to make it seem like he's cultured, and a picture climbing mountains to make it seem like he's adventurous. After some hard work, the profile is ready. The woman doesn't feel safe sharing a lot of personal information, so she chooses the first picture she can find, and she's ready to go. They start swiping and hope for the best. At the end of the day, when the woman checks her phone, her like counter is full. Practically every profile she likes is an instant match. Soon, she's overwhelmed by the amount of matches and messages in her inbox. For the man, it's a different story. So far, he has only received a couple of likes and has 0 matches. He becomes frustrated with the app and starts questioning his self-image. He puts so much effort into setting up a nice profile after all. Why can't he get any matches? To answer that question, we need to understand the numbers behind dating apps. I made a simulation of a dating app with 1,000 dummies to try to understand why men get so few matches.
And before they continue, we know why, don't we? For one, there are more men on dating apps. For two, all the men on dating apps aren't single. For three, women are going to have an abundant more options than men. But four, the matches do not match up. This is where both parties are pissed at dating apps. Because men get far fewer matches, but women get an abundant of matches that aren't good matches. They're just matches. And a lot of times it doesn't mean much. So whereas men get pissed off because they get few matches, women get pissed because they get so many matches and they can hardly find a decent man from those matches. So because of the weirdness of dating apps, a lot of decent people are not meeting each other. Dating apps don't make money from people meeting each other. They make money from the longing, the chasing, the fixation, the constant swiping. That's where the money is. There's no money in finding love for dating apps.
Dating apps can paint a distorted picture of what the real dating world is like. Some studies indicate that dating apps can have a negative impact on self-esteem, with a stronger effect on men. And women often have to find strategies to deal with intrusive behavior from men in these apps. It's hard to understand exactly what's going on inside these apps because there's very little data available. However, we can make educated guesses based on the little information we have. I'll start with an ideal, unrealistic scenario, and we'll see how quickly things change when I start adding real-life variables. Side note, we're talking about dating with opposite genders. Same-gender dating in dating apps has very different dynamics and is out of scope for this video. Since we're trying to make an ideal scenario, let's assume we have the same amount of men and women using the app. Let's also assume that everyone sees 100 profiles per day and that every profile is treated equally by the algorithm. I'm going to assume that users like 1 out of 4 profiles they see. This means every user has a probability of 25% of being liked every time their profile is shown. Some of these parameters aren't realistic, but that's okay. We're going to start like this and make it more realistic as we go. So, how many likes and matches will everyone get at the end of the day?
Dating apps have never been the best source for finding someone. It's a source of attention, but that's about it. What do you think? The world is yours. Have a nice day.
There are no more options left for you.